October 1st, right? October 1st meeting of the Board of Trustees. If you'll join the pledge of allegiance. I pledge
allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. First item is to set the agenda. Any additions or corrections?
There are no additions or corrections.
Entertain a motion then to set or accept the agenda.
So moved.
I'll second.
All in favor, please indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
The agenda is set. 1.3, are there members of the audience that would like to speak to any agenda items this evening? We'll get another chance at the end. The next item is our consent agenda. This evening we have our minutes from the September 10th meeting, claims, the normal list of items, I guess, on the consent agenda. Are there any items that a board member would like to pull out separately?
No.
Seeing or hearing none, I would entertain a motion then to approve the consent agenda. So moved.
Second.
Motion second, any discussion? All in favor, please indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Motion carries. Business transactions, 3.1, our favorite part. Focus on learning.
Mr. Dunn is here with, I believe, some students to share what they are learning at Menominee. So, Mr. Dunn, you would like to introduce them?
Absolutely. I apologize, Mr. Anderson, their teacher, just had a baby.
Well, not, he didn't have a baby.
Well, no, you're right, he didn't. His wife had a baby. Mia Grace came into the world today, so anyway, so he apologizes he can't be here, but he's with his wife. We have with us from Menominee, 4th grade, we have Lucas Record. Come on up, buddy. Sean Cadwell. We have Brady Pittman and Logan, our sidekick. Logan, I think, is running late. Okay, who's got the first card?
Oh, there he is.
And this is Logan Robbins. Morning, guys. Okay, who's got the first card?
Our assignment was to make an iMovie about fourth grade nothing. We had to have the main idea, the setting, and Mr. Anderson helped us brainstorm ideas.
We want to show you, the school board, how we're using technology in class.
So we're ready to roll that film?
Yep.
Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to Logan and Lucas in the morning.
Hi, I'm Logan.
And I'm Lucas.
And welcome to Logan and Lucas in the morning.
And we have a special guest today, fresh off of filming Tales of the Fourth Grade Nothing,
Peter Hunter. Welcome to the show. You tackled a lot of with us today, didn't you?
Yes, I did. I live in the year we're sitting near Central Park.
They don't like ESPN, they won't like it.
Was that coffee in those mugs?
No.
They asked though.
Mountain Dew.
Do you have any questions for the guys?
So what did you learn from making that? What was the hardest part of it? Yeah?
Really nothing.
It was easy?
Yeah.
So I'm gonna ask, why was it easy?
Well, because if we really just read to us and we already know the main characters, the plot, the setting, and mostly what it's about. Yeah.
Looked like it was a lot of fun. Did you have a good time doing it?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Do any of you want to go into theater, broadcasting, acting?
Maybe.
So.
All you have to do is furnish him with a lot of coffee.
Very good job.
Yes,
Very nice
good
job,
job.
guys.
Thank you.
Good job. Thank you.
Thank you.
We always offer that you can stay for the rest of the meeting, but it's a beautiful night, so you're certainly allowed to leave as well. And there may be homework to do, you can always use that.
Oh, we don't have a lot of homework, do we?
We don't really.
But what about the iStep part? No.
You can certainly stay.
That's not tonight.
Oh, it's not? Thank you. Thanks, Mr.
Okay, item 3.2, report on PCSC scores.
Good evening, everyone. I'll let Bruce get the presentation up and running, but I'm excited to be here tonight to present some data from the past school year at Plymouth High School. And Bruce, you can go ahead and go to the second slide. So, there are 4 pieces of information that I'll address with you tonight. Each piece accounts for a percentage of Plymouth High School's letter grade for the past year. It's important to note that letter grades have not been issued by the Department of Ed at this time. What I'm going to present to you is a projection. The DOE has given schools a formula to calculate one's grade. So again, I do want to emphasize that what I'm going to share with you is a projection. The presentation will conclude with that, but we're going to go step by step. I want to share with you our Algebra 1 and English 10 ECA scores for this year's junior class, be the 2015 cohort. And then I'm going to share with you the 2013 graduation rate and college and career readiness as defined by the DOE. Let's go ahead and start with Algebra 1. In looking at the 2015 cohort, we're going to start way back when this cohort was in grade 7. This was the first opportunity the cohort had to take the Algebra 1 end of course assessment. As you can see, 18 students in the cohort took it at grade 7 and 18 students passed. Next, we're going to look at grade 8. And feel free to ask any questions along the way. In grade 8, there were 70 students in this cohort who took the ECA for Algebra 1, and of those 70, 68, or 97% passed. These are different students than the 18 I share with you from grade 7. So it's important to note that when we get to the next slides, 86 total students in this cohort had passed the end of course assessment before they came to the high school. At Plymouth High School in grade 9, that's the grade level all students who have not taken algebra at this point take it. So we have 182 students left. Remember that 86 had passed from junior high, so that's about 1/3 of the cohort. leaving the remaining 2/3 as first-time test takers in grade 9. And because we're focusing on participation, I have included those 2 students from grade A in this. As you can see from the chart, 118 students, or approximately 65% of the remaining cohort, passed the algebra end of course assessment in grade 9. The last grade level to look at for this cohort is grade 10. As defined by the DOE, we are scored by the number of students who pass both ECAs, algebra in this case, and in English, which I'll share with you later, by the pass rate by the end of their sophomore year. So even though these students have all taken it now once, if they pass grade 10, they still count for us for the cohort. As you see here, there were 64 students who took the algebra ECA as retesters. 58% of these students passed. Interesting to note, in the 2014 cohort, the cohort before that, we had about 41.4% pass as sophomores. Now we are comparing apples to oranges, but I can tell you that the past 3 years, 4 years, Plymouth High School algebra teachers have gotten students who are taking it again, gotten retesters to pass at a higher percentage each year, which shows that we are becoming more effective in working with those struggling students. Next, we're going to look at the big picture, and the big picture is for that 2015 cohort, 89% passed. And just to repeat, Plymouth High School is assigned a letter grade in part by the percentage of the students in this cohort who passed this by the end of their sophomore year. 89%, and I'll get to that number at the very end. Next, we're going to look at a 3-year trend, and it's important to note that what we're looking at here in this trend is the percentage of students passing by the end of their sophomore year. And I've shared with you 3 different cohorts, the 2013, 2014, 2015 cohort, and the percentage of those students. You'll notice that with the 2015 cohort, there was a decline of 3% in the previous year. Another way of looking at it is that it's a 1.5% drop when you consider the average of the previous 2 years. Let's go to slide 9, please. Let's take a look at English. Unlike algebra, English is really one shot. We, as educators, give this assessment at the end of English 10. It has to be in the 2nd year of high school English. And so with algebra, all those students have an opportunity to test again. That opportunity does not exist in English. You can see that 221 of 270 students, 82% of the 2015 cohort passed the English ECA. Also, I'll share with you at the very end, algebra and English carry the same weight in the DOE's calculation. Let's go ahead and look at that trend, similar to what we did with Algebra 1. You can see that 2015 cohort was more or less consistent with 2014. Although we are comparing apples to oranges, there was that 1% change there. We were happy to see that scores were still significantly above the 2013 cohort, about 5% higher. So that was good. Next, I'm going to share with you the graduation rate. I have 2012 and the 2013 projected graduation rate. Again, I do want to emphasize that the DOE has not released official numbers for this, but I have projected that the graduation rate for the 2013 cohort will be at 86.4%, which is 5.2% decline in the previous year. Why the decline, you may be wondering. First of all, it's a great question. To start, remember that we are looking at a different group of students, and we are going to compare apples to oranges. But nonetheless, the most significant difference between these cohorts is the number of dropouts. A difference of approximately 4% cohort to cohort. We found, looking at the data, that the 2012 cohort, we had more students who pursued an accredited online school instead of attending Plymouth High School, or they opted for homeschooling. In the 2013 cohort, we did have students who either pursued a GED option, or they chose to not to pursue their education. Both of those ding us. Continuing though with other things that I noticed, in the 2013 cohort, 1.5% of its students are still in school at this time. The 2012 cohort was kind of an enigma. It is the only cohort in the past 6 years that has not, by the October 1st deadline, had any students still in school. Those graduates graduated on time. Every other year, graduating class, we've had students still in school. Last but not least, a very small part of that is there was a 0.5% increase from 2013, from 2012, excuse me, number of students who earned a special ed certificate. Next slide, please. The final factor that determines the high school's grade is college and career readiness. Now, the state defines that a college and career ready student has either, one, passed an AP exam, earning a 3, 4, or 5, or they have earned dual credit, 3 credit hours, and at least one course. And it's important to note that a student cannot be counted twice in that calculation. As I'm sure you're all aware, over the summer, PHS was recognized by the state for its 2012 cohort. We had 34% of that class's graduating seniors pass at least one AP exam. I'm happy to inform you that with the 2013 cohort, I projected that number to be at 35.5%. And additional numbers for that cohort are as follows. 41 students earned dual credit, and a total of 34 students in that class earned both dual credit and passed at least one AP exam. Overall, you can see here in the chart, 81 students in this cohort passed an AP exam. There were 7 additional students who earned dual credit. So as defined by the DOE, 38.5% of the 2013 graduating seniors were college and career ready. The state's goal for high schools is 25%. So this is an area that we feel our students are already accomplishing at a high level, and we expect this to grow as we offer more dual credit options in the future. The state average last year for graduating seniors passing an AP exam was 14.8%. We are 20%, our students are 20% above that, which is just phenomenal. The last slide that I'm going to share with you is the projected, emphasize projected, calculation. You can see on the right column there, we have the different weights for the different categories. Those categories are Algebra and English ECA, graduation rate, and CCR's college and career readiness. I have projected Plymouth High School to be an A school again, something that we're proud of and continue to do in the future. Happy to address any questions.
It's a very good presentation.
It's a good presentation, and I think it speaks very highly of the work and dedication of your faculty and your staff and your curriculum and student and parent support has to be there.
I would agree with you wholeheartedly. Absolutely.
The students that are still in school,
Correct.
will they count on this year's graduation rate or still go back into their own?
That's a great question. Any students who are still in school will count for the next year's cohort, assuming they graduate.
Okay, thanks.
Or like, what was the number, algebra, there was 11% that did not pass, do I remember that correctly?
Yes.
What happens?
Great question. They still need to graduate, and to get that, they need that English, or excuse me, that Algebra 1 ECA score. So we continue to work with them. We offer to help them remediate them before graduation comes. They'll have multiple opportunities to do that. Assuming they do pass, where there's actually a calculation for each cohort, Todd, where if we get a certain percentage of those students and that improves the cohort's overall percentage, we will get a bonus in the future year for that improvement.
Is there any thought or concern maybe that, you mentioned a higher number of dropouts, would that fuel that? If you're trying to, you need to pass algebra, ECA, regular issues to graduate, you're thinking, as a student, I don't see how I'm going to do this.
Yeah.
Or is that,
That's a really good question.
it's not a great question.
Well, it's a great question. And, I have some data for you, but it's really anecdotal. I can tell you, and
Anecdotal is fine. I just wonder if that plays into the student's mind.
I can tell you with this class, there were, I want to say approximately 6 students who had actually passed both ECAs. There were a number of students who passed one or the other. There were a few students in the cohort who did not even take them, meaning they didn't probably get to them their freshman year.
Who dropped out?
Yeah.
So they passed both English and algebra.
We have.
And still dropped out.
We have a few of those, that's correct.
I know
So-
there's multiple things going on.
Absolutely, and so what you have to understand is we do look at, we try to target those students early, the earlier the better, and involve parents in that process and, the stakeholders. We also, try to have support systems in place as far as those labs, learning centers. And then, that last piece is just that personal commitment and making sure that we can have those students take ownership of their learning.
Those students that go to the alternative school and meet the criteria, they count towards that number.
Absolutely. I greatly appreciate your time tonight. Thank you
Very
very
well
much.
done. Thank you.
Good report.
Carol, you have a question, Carol?
Who gets credit for the kids in 7th and 8th grade that pass it?
What do you mean?
Well, it's obviously the junior high teachers that are teaching them at that level.
Let me address that from this vantage. Each year when the media releases scores, the junior high gets that initial credit for their students passing. And the score that will often be released each year by the media at the high school level will not be reflective of those top students per cohort. However, in the end, at the conclusion of the cohort's work in high school, we do get those students added back in, and then that's released.
Those scores don't reflect on the junior high grade at all. They're only reflected on the high school grade.
And just one last comment on the college and career readiness. I know, Jim, that years ago was a focus that you brought in when you came to Plymouth, and it continues to be a focus, and kudos in terms of what's going on there and what for the percentages, and I don't care how far ahead we are of state averages, we can never have enough of that for students that are looking for that particular option, so thank you. Anything else?
Beam me up, Bruce.
I guess we're moving on to Mr. Ben.
I was told to move it.
Any questions for Mr. Ben?
Yeah, where's our coffee?
We can go ahead and go on to the first one. I think I'd like to thank the board for the opportunity to again review some of the criteria for the current status of our athletic programs at Plymouth High School. We looked at some trending data the last 7 years in comparison to where we were and where we're at now, and I'm just going to give you a brief overview of those identified areas. Our first one would be our athletic participation numbers. 2012-13, we had 668. That is up from our last year's stats. It's always dependent on the number of incoming freshmen and the number of kids that we can retain in that senior class. So major philosophy, I've said this year after year, but it's we stress multi-sport participation. In the fall, we have 7 sports, 21 total teams. Consistently, football is the largest group with 3 teams. Our smallest group is our girls golf team. Winter, we offer 7 sports, 17 teams. And again, wrestling continues to be our largest numbers in the winter. Girls and boys swimming were the smallest this last year. Spring, 6 sports, 13 teams. Boys track, largest. Boys golf was continues to be the smallest number. 3 years ago, we looked at something that jumped out at me was the percentages of multi-sport kids. We had 65%. Last year, it dropped to 52%. So I really wanted to see where we were at this year. We're steady. We're still at 51.8%. So when somebody says, hey, are we a multi-sport school? We technically are. 52% of our kids are multi-sport kids, 2 or more sports. Okay, number contest, 824 this year. Again, I could speak to a lot of different stats. I'll just tell you that our schedule ideally would be 50-50 home and away. It doesn't always work out like that. A lot of our schedules are real heavy early, and then we're early by the term of being home and away. It balances out by the end of the season. I know this year, for example, girls volleyball, second half of their season was extremely, they're on the road a lot. The first half of the season, they're at home. We try to make those adjustments because I think parents get probably pretty tired of being on the road, Tuesday, Thursday, Saturday. So we work to try and balance our schedule. When we have contests that, for example, freshman teams that don't have enough, we do try to reschedule our freshman teams. So we try to put our maximum number of contests, not that we have to, but in the end, it all does balance out as far as indoor. Now, outdoors, another story. Wet spring last year really hampered what we did. We weren't able to reschedule a lot of our events except for our conference matches and games. We do print our schedules 2 months in advance to all the people that have indicated they need to know. We do something new, an email reminder for our staff and our own visiting team, and most importantly, the officials. We're finding that some of our officials, regardless of whether they're an arbiter on a computer and or did a paper contract, they just sometimes forget. So John Scott's taken that on this last 2 years, and that's really helped us shore up some of those difficulties that we used to have 10, 20 years ago. A lot of busy nights, we can speak to that. We've got football going on across the street with Lincoln, a lot of Saturdays, 10 plus events. I'm really excited that this Saturday we have no home athletic events, so that's one of our leads. Any questions on that one? Okay, this is my favorite one because we showed a great increase in athletic GPAs. This is our highest year since we've checked the statistics, 8.73 overall GPA, consistently higher than our non-athletes, basically a letter grade higher, a B versus a C. Again, pretty consistent. Boys tennis is our high from last year in the fall. Boys soccer was the lowest at 7.9, but again, 7.9 is significantly higher than our non-athletes. Winter, we have a competition going, I think, in the winter with girls basketball, 9.63, and then gymnastics was 9.6. So they were excited they edged them out. I actually let them know that. Our low is, on the low end, was 7.4 wrestling. Spring, our girls tennis and boys golf were neck and neck. They were both at 10.2 and 10.1 as an overall GPA. Boys track was 8.1 for the low, and that was better than in previous years. I think the biggest thing that I can pinpoint for GPAs, I think our teachers communicate better with our teachers on staff, with our rosters who are coaches on staff. Even our lay coaches are now sending emails to our coaches on staff and say, hey, did you look at my list? If there's anybody that's not getting the job done in the classroom, let me know, and I think that's a big impact that we didn't have years ago. We had to wait for the paper stuff to come out the day before, and that's too late. So you can do a grade check at, week 1, week 2, week 3, and that catches those kids in a net that I don't think were caught in previous years. Okay, the next one, finances. When somebody says it's not about the money, it usually is, so this is all about the money, okay? I'll go through the expenses part first. Our expenses last year were $418,000. We had typical reconditioning in the fall and helmets for football. We did a gym floor renovation for $3,500 in the main gym after fall break. Winter expenses, we really took on a couple of projects that we would not normally take on. One, we took $10,000 out of savings for our half of the main gym ad board. We were able to get two $5,000 sponsors with Country Auto and Oliver Ford. That would be interesting to see how they combat each other and the signage in there. That was we had to take that out of savings to get that done. We also bought a wrestling mat last year. It's about approximately $8,000, which we don't budget for more than once a decade. I know we've got one we have to replace. Bob Reed actually wrestled on that mat at Plymouth High School back in 1977, I think, 76 or 77. Spring expenses, baseball, $1,500 we put into a field project out at Nixon. Batting cages, turf, windscreen, net, that was over $20,000. That was a donation. We did budget for new uniforms for both baseball and softball, helmets and equipment. So pretty expensive year as far as the spring was concerned. Fall revenue, 6-hour football tickets helped us, first time ever in the NLC. We had 5 home games, and that always helps. This year's our year that we have 4. Fundraising is up significantly in the fall. Fish fry and our auction raised approximately $14,000. We had donations from the Booster Club again, $18,000, 3 $6,000 payments, and private donations were significant last year. They were over $32,000 for us. The winter, we had 2 teams that got to the finals of the basketball regional, and you'd think that we'd have significant ticket increases. Really, they weren't all that significant, more than any previous year. Now, when we aren't winning, you'll see those go down. That's no mystery. But we did rely on our wreath fundraiser. I can tell you, concessions and vending continue to trend down. We've been able to get creative. Wrestling, we have 3 wrestling tournaments, and we charge an entry fee of $85 for JV tournaments. We might have 30 teams, and some of those teams only bring 5, 6 kids. I don't feel guilty about that. That's a nice fundraiser for a wrestling program. And teams are very hungry for being able to compete at that level. Something that didn't show up will show up next year, but I'll give you a heads up this year. Boys basketball had their first ever golf tournament, put together really pretty late in the summer. They took 3rd week of August. They raised approximately $11,000 in their first effort, so that is a significant amount of money, more so than any other golf tournament that's made a contribution to our athletic department. Summer girls basketball, they took on a project, $2,000, and they did concessions this year for the first time. So those are all good. Spring, like I said, it was wet. We supplemented a lot of income with our fish fry. Our spring sports card fundraiser brought in $6,000, and that's consistent. We really rely on packets, 50 plus business donations last year. Again, our packet money was a real supplement to what we do in athletics. But overall, I'm looking at all this, and I don't see any other significant spending except for those 2 areas, our wrestling mat and then our ad board. So if you look at those, that's, I think, our significant reason why we're about $7,500 over budget last year, which I knew was coming. Okay, tournament finances. We took in more than we spent. That's a good thing. I could go through the reasons why. I'm just telling you that we have a lot of tournaments, and that's a good thing for Plymouth High School to hang your hat on, I think. We had 11 tournaments last fall from various sports: golf, soccer, tennis, volleyball, football. In the winter, we hosted 4 wrestling tournaments: boys basketball, sectional, regional. That's a significant amount of income. Now, you won't see that next year because we're not hosting boys basketball sectional or regional. We might host sectional. I still held out hope for that. for another discussion. Spring baseball sectional, regional, track sectional, and we even do some tournaments in the summer in conjunction in partnership with the American Legion Post 27. And we split a huge profit of $2,200. So we made 11, they made 11, and that 1,100 went back into the field maintenance projects. Okay, total expenditures, next page. Total checking receipts were $521,000 last year. We weren't able to put any more than, well, we put $3,500 in savings, and really we're not able to put money in savings like we used to back in the day. Again, some of the things that I really relied on, vending and concessions, are down, but that's our $521,000 represents our receipts. Our expenditures are $503,000. The cost of goods and services are not going down. They're going, they're where they're at, just like you are in your own family. We're diligent in who we buy from and what price we pay. Our total cash on hand is $200,000 plus. We're down from last year. At this point in time, we had $212,000 in total cash on hand. And again, I can point to those two big purchases last year as my big dings of the year. We have a very healthy athletic account. I've told everybody that wants to listen that we're kind of the envy of a lot of schools. Privately, I don't get disclosure from other NLC schools, but they spend a significant amount of their monies in areas and capital projects that I think will come to haunt them in some point in the fiscal time. Any questions? Money questions? Okay, we got 2 more to go. Our code of conduct. This is my least favorite slide. We began testing back in 2000. We skipped a year because we couldn't. And then that next year, in 2003 and 4, we had 21. We now trend all the way to 28 last year. Last year we had 11 alcohol and tobacco related to code of conducts. 8 of those were from a single party. That was some party. 5 marijuana were from random drug testing and arrest. We had 2 expulsions that were involved with student athletes as well. 10 vandalism situations real early in the year last year, and that brought us to a record number of 28. Now, pleased to say right now we only have 4 so far this year. I'd like to multiply that times 3 and come out at 12. I'd be real happy to have half of what we had last year. Okay, last one. Oh, second to last. All conference, all state academic recognition. 29 all conference, that's 9, up 9 from the previous year. 21 honorable mentions, that's up 7 from the previous year. Number of academic stays the same because we can only get 10. Academic all state, we had 9, that's up 3 from the previous year. Honorable mention all state, we had 10 kids, that's up 3 from the previous year. North-South All-Star team that remained the same as the previous year, 1. 2 were included in the Athletic Hall of Fame, and we were up 1 in All-State recognition because the previous year we had 0. So those all trended up, and that's pleasing because that's just well-earned recognition for our student athletes. Last slide, I think. No, we're getting closer. Event supervision, we have all those people who help us in event supervision, fall, winter, and spring. Mr. Olson and I meet every Monday at 10:30. We go through the week. We prioritize. I can tell you that Mr. Scott, Mr. Condon, Mr. Olson, Mr. Coughlin, and Mrs. Porteous are consistently at our home athletic events and away events. Sportsmanship continues to be a big issue. There are some sports that just don't lend themselves real well to that. I'm talking soccer, boys and girls basketball, Hoosier hysteria. There's a lot of hysteria. Volleyball and wrestling. So all our home events are covered, and I appreciate the help. And it's really been a big change in the last 4 or 5 years. Just a lot more eyes in areas that we would not have help in.
Roy, I want to contribute one thing too. I want to publicly thank my fellow administrators from the other buildings, the junior high and Riverside especially, for offering to help us at extracurricular events. They have really established a presence at those, and we certainly appreciate that.
And our homeboys basketball games, girls games, and our football games our building administrators in the other areas, they're in the stands and they're watching their kids, and that speaks volumes. Although I've seen somebody turn their head and 25 kids just kind of calm down, so that's awesome. If they don't listen to me, they might listen to you. Mr. Dunn speaks, they listen. Here, last one, athletic bus and van expenses. I have this one on here. Every year it goes up, and that's no surprise. This last year it was $13,805. We started looking at this back in, I think, '09. It was about $7,900. We do supplement some of that payment in the summer because we do charge our student athletes and/or their fundraiser or their parents for summer transportation fees, and that's starting to grow because the summer is chaotic as far as travel, and it just isn't slowing down. That's kind of a concern, but that's where we're at. Any questions? Be happy to answer. Mm-hmm.
Baseball is the most expensive.
Yes, it is.
And why is that?
It's an expensive sport, and that I'm talking about
Travel.
baseball bats. We're talking almost $300 a baseball bat now, $280. We buy 6 a year, and some.
I just mean like the travel.
Oh, travel expenses, travel for baseball includes summer transportation, and their travel is a lot of those were makeup games. We had to go to the same site 3 times to Wawasee to make up a baseball game, so that makes me cringe because I know just about how much that is because we had to get the conference game in. So that one does that the same thing you're asking, Melissa. I looked at that and I'm going, And we try to do, we have a freshman JV and varsity team. We try to play a full schedule on all 3 of those. When I say freshmen, we played 15 freshman games, which is really unusual for a high school now in this day and age. Most schools try to get 8, 10 games in. We try to get 15. So yeah, it's there. And that does include summer. And that most of the other sports don't get to do a whole lot in summer, although, like I said, it's trending up. Anybody else? Going once. Okay.
I just comment, Roy.
Yeah.
I think you and your department does a tremendous job. The thing that impresses me more than anything else is the way you can handle your finances in this day and age with the cost of everything and equipment and so forth and so on. I know a lot of athletic departments that are in bad shape, and you have to be way above the bubble on that. So
Well, I appreciate that. We're excited where we're at.
That's a challenge.
Not further north. I know one school, there's only one school in South Bend that made money last year. Everybody else lost, so we're happy to be where we're at, down where we're at. Okay, thank you.
Good, thanks, Roy. Item 3.4, corporation analysis of ISTEC.
I want to step over to the podium so Gary and Melissa can see the screen here. So my goal tonight is to give you, I guess, a bird's eye view of how we did on ISTEP and how we've trended over the last 4 years. And then at the meeting in November, the principals will be here to talk about their buildings. And so if we presented on grade level, we'd be stealing a lot of thunder today because some really good things happened that's in some of the buildings. So this is English Language Arts. We start with 2009, 2010 because that's when they renormed the cut scores and the tests kind of changed that year. So pretty much consistently been the same test for the last 4 years. And would like to highlight just the fact that we continue to grow. One thing I would highlight with English Language Arts is that from 2011 to 2012, in between those 2 years, the state pretty much stayed stagnant, and we continued to grow. So I think that's a testament to what our teachers are doing. The other thing about that is the better you do, the harder it is to show growth as well too. And so I think our even making gains between 2012 and 2013 shows that our people are working tremendously hard. So that's English Language Arts. The next one is math. When we reported last year at this time, we had concerns as a group about our math scores, And we're very pleased to see here 2013 that we actually didn't even just get back to where we were. We made gains from where we were in 2010 and 2011 in the percent of students passing math. And then the percent of students passing both English language arts and math, again, continue to grow as well too. So we're pleased. I think one thing that at the corporation level is we want to make sure our programming and our curriculum is where it needs to be. And taking this bird's eye view gives us a good sense of that because we're talking about a lot of kids over those 4 years. So any questions? Pretty quick ones. Go ahead.
Just point out one thing to the board. There's been a lot in the news about Common Core and how terrible it is and what a horrible thing. We should get away from Common Core. I don't know if you read that, been in any of the meetings, but we started implementing Common Core several years ago ahead of time so we could be ready because there was only going to be 1 year and then you were going to be tested on it. So if you look at our math scores, you see we went up.
You go to the previous slide there, Bruce. No, other way. Here you go.
Yeah, you see we've increased, and that's while we are implementing Common Core. Just make my statement. Common Core is a higher standard. Some people suggest that we leave things out, that it ends at algebra. It does end at algebra where the common part goes, but we take from there and we go ahead and offer the other math classes besides algebra. That's just where the Common Core stops. I hope, and we would be, we would love to show you if you want to see some of the differences, but I would like to embrace Common Core in the future. I hope our state allows us to embrace Common Core because if we stay with the standards that the state has now, we're talking about teaching math and language arts in a world that no longer exists. And our curriculum has to change with the time, and we're stagnant. So I'm impressed, not only that our teachers showed growth, but we did that while what grade level do you remember? How far did we go with Common Core this year?
Pretty much fifth.
Fifth grade. So we're talking about third, fourth, and fifth grade. So half of the I-STEP was based on teaching Common Core.
The other thing I would add to the math scores as well too is we've made a concerted effort to get more kids college and career ready at the high school and ready to take those dual credit classes, which means we've started to accelerate kids at an earlier age. And so these scores represent, we had 100 8th graders who actually were taking algebra and geometry, but were tested on standards that they've been taught 2 or 3 years earlier, and still continue to show gains. So
some standards had never been taught.
A lot of them had never been taught. Yeah.
Any questions? We're going to get some more detail next month.
Yes, the building principals will be here and talk about grade level data for you. Yep.
We want to give you all the good news.
Didn't want to steal their good news either, because they have a lot of good news.
Like I said, they probably have good news. Thanks.
Well, I think I sent an email out to you that talked about the change in our count from last year to this year. We're up 38.9 students. And you might ask, well, how can we have 0.9 students?
Dan, how can we have 0.9 students?
That's a very good question. Sometimes we have kids that are only with us in elementary for half a day, and sometimes we have kids that are only with us in high school for a third of the day. So those kids only count a third or a half. This year, we have the homeschool rule where students want to be a part of one class in school, they can. We've kind of allowed that in the past anyway. We think it's important that if kids want to take part in the school, they can. So when you take all of those, plus kindergarten still only counts half. So if you take all of those halves, thirds, 3/8, all the different things, and you end up, you can end up with a 0.9. You could end up with a 0.7, but we ended up with a 0.9. So we were 38.9 students over what we were last year. And then that's the ADM, that's the average daily membership. And when we report the ADM, kindergarten students are only half. And so we ended up then with 56 additional students total. That's there aren't many superintendents in this area who are able to make that kind of report to their board. Most of them, if they're making that report tonight, they're saying we're down 15, we're down 40, we're down 50. South Bend's case, they're down 500, they're down 600. So I think that Dan talked about staff doing a great job. I think we also have to compliment the staff because we continue to grow. We continue to let other communities know that we have a great product and if they're willing to drive. I think this will be too. There's not a lot of detail, but that's the actual report that we sent into the state that you have in front of you. Now, there will be another count day in February. Okay, so we'll have to keep that. We'll have to keep those numbers up. And I get a monthly total from Tim Pulliam, and that goes out to the principals and kind of hold their feet to the fire. Why we're down students? Why are we down students? What are we going to do about it?
You know, typically, Dan, what we've done in the past? I mean, are we down a little bit in February, or do we know?
Last year we were down 1 or 2 students. I think that it became a reality last year though when they went to the county. Typically, I think we're probably down 15 or 12 students. We've got to be within 5 to 10 students of what we were. I mean, we could be up and I'll be ecstatic, but if we're only down a few, I'll understand that. I was glad they made the count day in February and not in January, because there's so much transition during the holidays. People are out of work. Some places just shut down completely. Families don't have a place to live, and they take off, live with somebody in another community, and then they're back to us in 3 weeks. But they're gone for a while, and so I was glad that in February they made that. So we're talking about doing it in mid-January. I think one other thing I was going to make notice of here, if you look at it says cash transfers, that they're not really cash transfers anymore, but you'll see that that's up from 225-ish last year to 260 this year.
Do they have to physically be in the school for the head count? I mean,
They have to be enrolled. They can be absent and still count.
yeah, that's what I was curious. I mean, if you have quite a few out with the flu or something, you still want to get that head count.
twice, right?
Just can't count them twice.
Do math.
Sure, they can. You'll have, every year, we'll have students that, Kim will send in our ADM report, and every student has a STM number. And the state will come send it back and say, you've got 5 students that another school says they have. And so then we have to go and we have to track down that child. Are they really here? 95% of the time they're here and not in their school. But every once in a while, they moved on, they withdrew on Thursday and the count day was on Friday. And so they didn't get taken off our roster, so they counted as here, but they were in
first reading, new and revised policies.
Yes, and it is a first reading. So we just got these from Neola. I would like for you to, if you have any questions at this time, we will certainly try to go over them. If you have any questions about these between now and the next meeting, please let us know. If there are any, we can come back and talk about them.
I haven't got through all these, but they seem to be statutory as far as what I've seen so far. Is there any?
I don't remember any that weren't statutory.
But please let them know if there's questions. It's better to do that before we get into the meeting, in case they have to look something up or refer to it. So that'll be on our agenda for consideration next meeting. 3.7, need to consider the adoption of the 2014 budget.
Yes, I gave you some colorful documents that you had previously in the hearing. I'll just reiterate, like for you to adopt the budgets for the general fund of $24,748,774. It's an increase of $545,000 approximately from last year, what I asked for. But sometimes my philosophy, ask and ye shall receive, possibly. So, fear it doesn't hurt to ask. They'll tell me if they don't want me to have that much. Debt service is what it is. That is what our debt comes to, our payments, and those are what we are obligated to pay and have to pay regardless of anything else going on. The next one is transportation, asking for $1,413,972. And I threw in the rainy day fund at $660,000, and that's just in case we need it. That doesn't mean we will use it. And then of course, the bonds, the pension bonds are what they are, and those are also obligations we must pay. So those are anything else?
We've gone through the budget, we've had a budget hearing. Get this on the table. Consider a motion for adoption of the 2014 budget.
So moved.
Second. Any additional questions? Board? Appreciate all the work, Kenny. Hearing none, all in favor, please indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. We also need to consider the adoption of the 2014 capital projects plan.
And requesting appropriations in the amount of $4,264,100. And this is to maintain and keep our schools up to date on the things that are necessary.
Being on the table, consider or request a motion for the 2014 capital projects plan.
So moved. I'll second.
Motion second, questions? This is one where we would expect some reduction by the DLGF.
Correct, yes, due to tax caps.
We don't know, well, we don't know what our final AD is at this point. Sometimes.
Now, is that 5-year plan?
Three.
I'll have motion second, all in favor, please indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried. The 2014 bus replacement plan, which is a 12-year plan, I need to consider a motion to approve the 2014 bus replacement plan.
Yes, a few years back, they requested we move it from a 10-year replacement plan to a 12-year. So we are requesting, I was trying to look at how many, I apologize for that. It totals $322,000, which I believe is 4 buses, possibly a van. Sorry, I can get that for you. Thank you. It would be 3 buses and a van. That's right.
So moved.
Second.
And motion is second, any questions? If
Is our fleet holding up for that 12-year cycle?
I have motion and second. All in favor, please indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed?
I can add to that a little bit, Larry, about the bus replacement. They are now offering some warranties, especially on the braking systems, which there were some buses that seem to have very expensive replacements for brakes. And Weir's recommended that we look into that, and they actually offered that during the purchasing. And so this summer was the first summer we purchased those at a very minimal cost compared to what the replacement cost will be. So I think that will help in the long run.
Good. Thanks, Candy. Section 4, van superintendent remarks.
Yes. Under our core values, commitment to students, we would like to thank the local citizens who came into the Wagner School inquiry and helped out with the Civil War reenactment. I think we find that it's this kind of experiential learning that helps add relevancy to the studies and makes them more meaningful. So we really appreciate people taking the time to come in. 4.2, caring. Right now we are in the middle of a United Way campaign. For the last 2 years, Plymouth Community School Corporation has won the traveling trophy for being the top K-12 contributor, and that's in the county, but that's now obviously we're the biggest school, so you think, well, yeah, of course we win, but it's per student, so it's a ratio. So very proud of our schools and how much they contribute. I think you heard Mr. Binge talk about the donations that we receive, and I think it's important for us to make sure we dig in our wallets and give back when United Way knocks on our doors. So I'd like to thank Jack Davis and Mr. Featherstone, Dick Featherstone, hard time not calling him that, for going to all the schools and making the presentation for that. High expectations, which is our third core value. Got a really excited email from Brian Ames this last weekend. They beat a couple schools they haven't beaten in years, and he really felt like their hard work had paid off. They had taken off the weekend of the Concord marching contest, and they had an 8-hour practice, and I think it helped considerably. They're now have put themselves in a position where they could realistically march for the state marching contest. So we're excited for them, and this weekend is the Harvest Festival of Bands in our own field, and so if you haven't been out to see that, I would suggest stopping by and watching the bands for a while, because it's a really exciting time. If you've been in Riverside, you might notice a couple of shaggy, long-haired teachers, but we're very proud of them. John Primus and Tim Schmidt decided it was important for them to donate to the Pantene Lovable Length. So they're growing out their hair until it's a certain length, and then it'll be cut off and sent to somebody less fortunate. Mr. Funston. Integrity. Just gonna take that. Well, I was looking at you, Tom. I realized about evaluations coming up.
I was just saying we should grow ours out.
Lovable waters. Wagner School Inquiry recently hosted the IDOE Regional Summit. This is the first time that the Indiana Department of Education has had an outreach coordinator. And for our area, it's Lisa Gerbach. And they were here that evening to talk to area principals, teachers, whoever wanted to come to that and talk about some of the new and exciting things that the Department of Education is trying to implement. And 4.6, enjoyment. Of course, you got to get excited. It's a Concord game. It's homecoming. It's a game of the week. We'll be on TV, so good luck, Rockies. Upcoming events, October the 16th, which is the ISBA Regional 2 meeting at Christo's Banquet Center. Since that's Boss's Day, I'll buy you all dinner that night. So, November 5th is got a big evening. We got an executive session for an hour. I will do the evaluation of the principals that evening. I'm only going to go through just a summary of their evaluation. I won't take long on each one unless there's something specifically you want me to talk about. That's also the night that you have my evaluation ready. So, and then on December the 3rd, there would be another public hearing, well, the executive, not an executive session, but a public hearing for the superintendent's contract. This is a new law. We went through that last year. There are a lot of I's that have to be dotted and T's that have to be crossed as far as having things ready and having them advertised. So the hearing would be on December 3rd, and then the first meeting in January would be when you would actually vote on the superintendent's contract. In December, we'll have the administrator's contract on the board agenda, so, except for mine. So that's it. Long agenda tonight, and we were able to get through it very efficiently. I'd like to thank everybody who made presentations.
Any questions for Dan? Thanks, Dan. Any questions or comments from those that remain in the audience? Appreciate you being here and your participation. One thing I missed when we had our consent agenda, maybe it's personal, because I remember working with Chris Myers quite a bit when my children were younger, but seeing her retirement, I did want to make a comment. Certainly appreciate all the efforts of Chris, and I've seen the personal commitment that she has to our students, and I just want to recognize that. I need a motion to adjourn.
Make a motion, we adjourn?
I need one. You got it? I have a second?
I said second.
Let's vote then. All in favor, please indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
We adjourn.